Hi, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let us start today's class. In today's class, we'll try to discuss about developing OData ABAP service for inserting record via create entity method. We are going to develop OData service for inserting record via create entity method. So as a developer, we can make use of create underscore entity, that is a method to submit the data and to insert the record. But the main point here is create entity method contains two important parameters. Create entity contains mainly one standard parameter, that is IO data provider. IO data provider is a standard parameter. So this parameter must be used IO data provider. It's a standard parameter. It should be used whenever you use create entity method, and IO data provider will capture the record coming from front end. IO data provider is responsible for capturing the record of front end application. IO data provider is responsible for capturing the record of a front-end app. It can be any application like UI5 or Fiori, whatever. So you can see now I'm going to data provider extension class. I'm going to data provider extension class. In that class, you can see there is a create entity method. There is a create entity method, so you can redefine that method for implementing the functionality. So you can see now IO data provider. So this is going to capture the complete record coming from front end. It contains the complete record whichever is coming from a front end. So what you can do is you can use your data statement, and I can take some work area type ZCL model provider class, and you can refer with a table structure, that is EMP table structure. And what you need to do is the record will come from front end, so you have to capture that record in OData service. You have to capture that record inside OData service. So in order to do that, you can use IO data provider. It's a standard parameter. IO data provider, and you can call a method like read entry data. read entry data. So it is going to import that complete record into work area. You can import that record into work area by using importing statement. Importing, and you can see ES data equal to work area. So the record whichever is coming from front end will reach work area. Ultimately, the record coming from front end will reach work area because of IO data provider read entry data method. So after capturing that record, you can put some if-else conditions that you can do it. But as of now, I'm just trying to insert a record, like insert into some table, Z user info table, values are part of work area. We are inserting the record from work area into database table. After inserting the record, I want to send that record back to front end. After inserting the record into database table, if you want to see the same record again in the front end, then you can use ER entity parameter here. ER entity will send that record again back to the front end. But that is optional. It is not mandatory you should send the record. You need to capture the record, you insert the record, but sending the record back to front end is not mandatory. Sending the record back to front end is not mandatory. So if you want, you can use it, but this is not mandatory. ER entity is equal to work area. So this is optional. Let me comment here. This is optional. So IO data provider is the main parameter in this particular case. IO data provider is the main parameter in this particular case. You can capture the record and insert the record into database table, and just try to understand a very basic point here with a diagram. So this is a code we are writing at OData service level. And you know that the record will come from front end. The input record will come from front end. So that input record, as a developer, we are capturing into work area here. So that is a main point in this code. And we are trying to capture that record just because of IO data provider read entry data method. IO data provider read entry data method will help you to capture the record coming from front end into this work area. After that, you can insert that record into database table or other operations. It will go to database table. So technically, this is our OData service level. And this is our front end. You can assume like that. We'll do it in the coming classes. So overall, this is a main theme. So let me try to provide that code to you. There's a code. So just open data provider extension class and redefine create underscore entity method. 1 second. So you can redefine create underscore entity method and you can implement the below code. So that is a code I'm trying to copy for you so that you can experiment. So that's the overall code. And then what you can do, just activate your DPC extension class and test the service. You can test the service. So just open gateway client. You can just open gateway client. So let me do that here. So you can see now, let me close the screen and just let me activate now. I'm activating. Then you can go back to your service maintenance. The service is already registered. In the previous classes, we have registered this service already. Don't do it again and again. Just go to gateway client. You can go to gateway client and then, so if you want to insert, how you do it from gateway client, so that is important. The user is going to provide the record from the front end, not from gateway client. User is going to provide the record from the front end, not from gateway client. But as a developer, if you want to test it, you can test it from gateway client. So first of all, let me get a record by using entity set. For example, I want to get a record based on, for example, 1001. 1001, I'm just able to get this record based on that ID. So long back we have written that code, 2-3 days back we have written the code to get a specific record. Now, but if you want to insert a record, what you need to do is you have to take this syntax. You need to take this particular syntax and you need to use this syntax for providing a new record. You can use this syntax to provide a new record from the HTTP request. So I mean to say, this is a syntax we got while fetching the data. So the same syntax you need to use it, while inserting the data from HTTP request. But the thing is, you can change these values. You can provide new record values instead of this existing record. You can provide a new record values here. So if you want to insert a record, you have to provide that record from HTTP request here. So let me do that now. So just use as request. There is a button right side. You can see you can use this syntax for inserting the data. So that's the reason why you can use as request. So it will copy this syntax under HTTP request. So you can see now. I'm clicking on use as request. So you can see here. You'll get that record values. You'll get that record values. but you'll get a syntax. Syntax is important, the record is not important for us. So anyhow, we are going to provide a new record by changing those things here. You can see I'm changing the record here, 1001 to, for example, 9999. And I'm providing, for example, let me provide one record name, something like Ravi. I'm providing Ravi here and Ravi Kumar, and let me provide something like ravi@ca.com, and I'm changing the values with respect to phone number. I'm providing all 8s, country as US, and salary as 80,000. So this is a new record we are trying to insert here. We are trying to insert a new record by providing the fresh values here. You can see that. Now what else you need to do is in the header also you provide that ID. In the header also you provide that ID. Better provide. So now what you can do is you can make use of a post operation here. You can see this. So let us observe very carefully here. We got this and we are able to provide new record values here. We are able to provide new record values here. After providing new record values, you have to make use of a post operation here to execute the service. You need to use post operation in order to execute a service. So let me do that. So I'm trying to use post, but before posting, let me open the database table. Posting the record is nothing but inserting the record to database table. So there are 43 records now. Let me insert new record. So use post operation. Post is for executing create entity method. Post is responsible for executing create entity method as per framework rules. So let us execute now. And you can see now you're getting that message as created. You're getting a message as created. That means the record is inserted. And it is sending the record back to response. But what is the guarantee the record is really inserted? You can go to database table and you can just refresh this table, and now you can see there's a problem. The record is not inserted because the record is already available with a different name. So let me try with a different ID. ID is already existing, so let me try with 990. 990 I'm providing. Let me execute your post operation, and it is saying that 201 message as status code for creation, and let me go to the database table and let us refresh here. And you can see this is a record inserted now in the database table. Ravi Kumar, ravi@ca.com, 80,000 and 990. If you want to insert a new record, then you can try with this. For example, header doesn't matter about header. Header is just a title. Don't worry about that. So I'm providing 990, and I'm providing, for example, Kishore, Kumar, and Kishore@ca.com, and I'm providing something like all 7s with country India and salary 90,000. So this is important. But in practical, if the service is okay, then we are going to design the actual screen where user provides the input. User doesn't provide input from gateway client. User will provide input from the screens that which we are going to discuss in the coming classes. So let me insert a new record, and you can see there is a success message with 201. There's a success message with 201, and let me check the database table by refreshing here. You can see 45th record is inserted as 9992 with Kishore. So that is how it works. You need to be very careful while testing this service for inserting the data. So let me provide those steps here. Open gateway client. Then what you do is use as request. Use as request and change the record values under HTTP request. Click on use as request, then change the record values under HTTP request and choose, you need to choose like post operation. You have to choose post operation in order to insert the record and execute the service. So that is what technically you need to take care. So let us understand in detail what is actually happening in the background. Let me open by putting a breakpoint here. So I'm going to DPC extension class. Let me just put a breakpoint to understand what is happening when create entity is executed. Rohit, I think you are connecting from two different browsers. So now you can see here, let me put a breakpoint. So I'm trying to enable a breakpoint somewhere here. And let us execute from gateway client. So I want to provide a new record 99995, for example, something like Sachin. And Sachin at something like ca.com, and then all files I'm providing, and something like some salary 10,000 I provided. So this is a new record now. So whatever you provide here, that will reach your work area because of IO data provider class, because of IO data provider parameter. So let us execute now with a post operation. So it is going to stop the execution when breakpoint is triggered. It is going to execute the service and it will stop the execution at a breakpoint. And as a developer, I just want to know what is coming to work area. So you can go to structure concept here and you can provide work area. And when you press enter, you can see now this is the record that is provided. This is a record that is provided from gateway client, and it is reaching our coding. So it is coming to work area, and that record we are trying to insert into database table. That is what happening. So whatever data you provide in XML format, that is reaching here. That is the point. Now, how to update a record? Let us understand that. So let us understand how to update a record. updating record via OData gateway service or OData web service. So it's very simple. You can write the code, implement the code under update entity method. You can implement the code under update entity method. So in update entity method also, we have to use IO data provider. Same parameter is applicable. So in update entity method also, IO data provider is responsible for capturing the record values. IO data provider is available even for update entity method. So it is useful for capturing the record values from front end. It is useful for capturing the values from front end. So just open data provider extension class and redefine update entity method. Redefine update entity method and implement the below code. So let me do that. There is update entity method. Let us redefine that. And for update entity method also, you can see IO data provider. That is common for these two methods. Create entity method, update entity method. Both these methods contains this IO data provider. So what you can do now, you can just try to use one work area, some type ZCL model provider class and tables EMP, table structure EMP, and then you can use IO data provider and you can use read entry data. Read entry data and you can import ES data into some work area. It will import that record into work area coming from front end, and just you can write your update statement. Of course, you can write all your if-else conditions similar to normal ABAP. So I'm going to concentrate on how we test the service, how the methods will work. The major concentration will be in that. So you can write your ABAP statements whenever, wherever necessary. Okay. So here you can see I'm using update statement, update so-and-so table, and I want to update only few fields. I want to update few fields. For example, I want to update first name. You can see first name, last name, email ID, just only phone number. So first 4 fields I want to update, then you can write those specific fields here. Set first name, you can use set last name, set email ID, and set phone number. Let me check the fields directly here. Yeah, phone number is not there, phone. And I want to update the record based on user ID field. I want to use where clause on user ID, and I can pass the work area values here. Work area hyphen, you can pass your first name. And similarly, work area hyphen, you can pass last name for updation. Whichever fields you want to update, you can update from here. Work area hyphen, something like phone number, and you can use user ID, for example, work area hyphen user ID. So this is what you can write here. We are just updating only 4 fields based on the condition as user ID. So it's very simple now. The record will come to work area, and work area values we are passing to update statement. So let me activate this code. So you can copy this, just implement that code and just activate DPC extension class and open gateway client, test the service. How you test the service? Testing the service is important in order to check whether service is successfully executed or not. So I'm just trying to activate, and you can go back and you can just open gateway client, and say for example, think like this. I'm getting one record. I want to update a record, for example, 995. 995 contains a record already in the database, so that I want to update. 995 is already available with Sachin Tendulkar. I want to update these values. Then what you can do is you have to get this syntax under HTTP request. You have to get this syntax under HTTP request here, left side. That's the reason why you need to click on use as request. That's the reason why you need to use it as request here. Then you will get that syntax left hand side. That is the point. You'll get that syntax left hand side, and you can update the, I don't want to change user ID because based on the user ID we are updating the values. So that's the reason why user ID remains same, because I want to update that user ID with the new values. So don't change user ID. I'm just changing from Sachin to, for example, MS Dhoni, something like that. So you can provide something like these values and all 4s. So that is how you can provide the values. So 995 Sachin is updated with MS Dhoni here. So that is what we are trying to do now. Don't change user ID because user ID field is the key field in the database table. Don't change that. Based on the key field, you update the record values. So, and let me use put operation. When you want to execute, if you want to execute like update entity method, then you have to use a put operation under gateway client. You can see this. Here you can see there is a put operation. So if you use put operation, these values will be updated because it is going to execute update entity method internally. So that's a behavior. You need to understand the behavior. The code what we write inside those services will be like normal ABAP only. But the only thing is you need to understand the behavior and the syntaxes. So you can execute update entity method when you provide an instruction with put operation here. So in till the last class, till yesterday, we were using just only get operation, getting the data based on filter, getting the data based on some input, getting the data based on some multiple input parameters, and getting the data based on search string. But today we are using post, and now we are using put operation. So put is to update the record. So it will execute update entity method according to framework rules. So first let me do that. Let me execute now. So now you can see we are getting some status code 204. Let me check whether the record is really updated or not. You can go back, refresh here, and when you refresh, you can see now 995 Sachin is updated with MS Dhoni here. So that is what happening. So it is removing that and it is adding a new value by update statement. So that is a way of testing. So let me write it here. Use as request. Click on, you have to click on use as request and change the record values. In previous case, you have to provide new record values here in previous case. But now we have to change the record values except key field. You have to change the record values except key field value and click on put operation and execute the service. Click on put operation, then execute the service. So that's a general procedure to update the record. Now, say for example, I want to implement the delete functionality by executing the code under delete entity method. Based on the key field, I want to delete the record. So let me write it here. Something like that. I want to delete a record via OData service based on key field. Then what you can do is just use something like implement the code under delete entity method. You can implement the code under delete entity method. So just open data provider extension class, and redefine delete entity method and implement the below code. So let us understand that. Go to DPC extension. So I'm going to delete entity method. Let us change and redefine. Let us change and redefine. So if you want to capture, if you want to delete the record, you have to delete the record based on key field. That key field value will come from front end. To delete the record, there should be some key field value. Based on that, we can perform delete operation. So how to capture that key field value coming from front end? Front end will provide some key field value So based on that, you have to delete. So that's the reason why you can make use of IT key tab here. So IT key tab will help you to capture the input key field value coming from front end. IT key tab is a parameter of delete entity method to capture the key field value coming from front end. So let me write a simple note. IT key tab is responsible for capturing the input key field value from front end. So front end user will provide that key field value. So based on that, we are going to delete. So let me write that code. So you can use, for example, data statement, work area key tab, and you can use, for example, type /iwbep/s_mgw name value pair, and then you can use your read table statement, read that key field values from IT key tab into work area key tab. And with index, for example, 1, because the first key field is at index 1. And what you can do is you can put some if-else conditions. So let me directly use delete statement. So if-else conditions means you can use like this: if work area underscore key tab hyphen value is not initial. If it is not initial, then I want to delete that record. Delete from so-and-so table. You can use where user ID is equal to work area key tab hyphen value. And you can put end if here. You can use other conditions if you want, but this delete statement is important here. We are deleting the record from database table based on where class user ID field value. So it's very simple. You can implement this code and just activate DPC extension class and open gateway client and test the service. Open gateway client and test the service. So you can go back and let me go to gateway client, right click your service maintenance and open gateway client. So you will get like this. So you can provide some entity set name. For example, I want to delete the record which is having user ID as 9995. I want to delete the record based on the key field value 9995. So I want to delete that Dhoni record. So then you can provide like this as input 9995 and try to use a delete option here. There is a delete option, you can use that. So provide some input e-field value and use your delete operation here. So it is going to execute delete entity method as per OData service framework. It automatically executes delete entity method as per the framework rules. So we'll try that here. I'm just executing and you are getting some 204 status code. There is no error, 204 status code, and just let us go to database table and just let us refresh here. So now there are 45 records, 9995 record is missing now. Similarly, I want to delete something like 999 or 9999. So what you can do? Provide that here and execute with delete operation and go to database table and refresh here. So now there are 44 records here. So that is how you can test it. You can provide your entity set name. You can provide entity set name and provide that key field value, something like this. And choose delete operation. Choose delete operation and execute the service. So that is a general procedure. So you need to notice this point. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me now. In the coming classes, we'll discuss some more concepts.